Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's hearing. The date is September 8th. It's incorrect on this book. I apologize. It's September 8th, 2022. And this is case DCI2021-00040. It's a rezoning in the North Fort Myers planning community to CPD. Because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide is the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So the way that we'll proceed this afternoon is first we're going to hear from the applicant. They're going to present their request in the case and present any witnesses that they may have to support their request. Following their presentation, we will hear from the county staff who have recommended approval in this case with conditions. After the county staff has concluded their presentation, we will call for the public comment. So if I have your cards here, I will call them in the order that I have them. That's the opportunity to come to the podium and place any comments that you may have into the record. There is only one opportunity to speak, so I would encourage you to take notes as we go through things so that you can make the most of the time that you have at the podium. This case will go to the Board of County Commissioners following this hearing, so if you speak today, you will have opportunity to speak at that hearing as well. So with that, we can begin with the applicant. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. For the record, Veronica Martin, Senior Planner with TDM Consulting, representing the applicant, Darius Cochran. I have been accepted as an expert witness in the LEAF plan and the Land Development Code and asked to be accepted as such again today.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I would like to enter one exhibit into the record, which is a hard copy of today's PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, thank you. That will be applicant's exhibit 1. Thank you.
I would also like to put into the record that I did receive one phone call from a member of the public with questions regarding noise and drainage. In fact, she is here today. The request before you today is to rezone 7.4 acres from commercial planned development and single-family residential RS1 to commercial planned development to permit 2 different development scenarios. Master Concept Plan A, Scenario A, permits a maximum of 34,300 square feet of commercial uses, including sales, rental, and display of vehicles and equipment on Tract 1 along North Cleveland Avenue, and vehicle repair and service on Tract 2, which is east of Judd Road. Scenario B permits a maximum of 142,000 square feet of commercial uses, including a convenience food and beverage store with 20 fuel pumps on Tract 1 along North Cleveland Avenue, and a public warehouse with open storage area on Tract 2 east of Judd Road. We are in agreement with the staff report, including all conditions as indicated in the 48-hour letter. As you can see on the area location map, the subject property is actually 2 tracts. Tract 1 along US 41, North Cleveland Avenue, and Tract 2, we're calling that one east of Judd Road, since it does have 3 different roads surrounding the property. It's in the North Cleveland Avenue planning community. It's south of the Walmart Supercenter, and Judd Road does bisect the property that we are rezoning. The property has a future land use classification of intensive development as shown in pink. And as you can see, the properties on all 4 sides also have a future land use classification of intensive development. Tract 1 along North Cleveland Avenue is in the mixed use overlay. However, Tract 2 on the east side of Judd Road is not. Properties to the north, south, and west of the subject property are also in the mixed-use overlay as shown in the light purple on the mixed-use overlay map. Again, surrounding zoning includes CPD to the north, the Walmart Supercenter, community commercial to the south, which is the All Souls Episcopal Church, C1 and C1A to the west across North Cleveland Avenue, They have a mix of commercial uses on that side, and RS1 to the east with single-family homes. Urban services, including potable water, sanitary sewer, public transportation, fire, EMS, and sheriff stations are available and adequate to serve the proposed development. My presentation separates master concept plan scenario A with the buffers and deviations and uses with that compared to master concept plan B, which is a little different than how the staff report was laid out. But you can ask me any questions during my presentation. So master concept plan A does show scenario 1 with vehicle display, sales, and rental on Tract 1 along North Cleveland Avenue. Their service and repair center is located on Tract 2 east of Judd Road. Access to Tracts 1 and 2 is from West Mariana and Judd Road. Sidewalks are proposed along all street rights of way, and there's an existing Lee Tran bus stop on the north side of West Mariana. Buffers on Tract 1 include a 20-foot wide landscape buffer between the display area and the rights of way, and a 25-foot wide buffer between the proposed building and the rights of way. Those buffers will have 5 trees per 100 linear feet and a double staggered hedgerow. Buffers on Tract 2 include a 5-foot wide type A buffer with 4 trees per 100 linear feet and a single hedgerow to the place of worship to the south, a 25-foot wide buffer with an 8-foot high wall set back 25 feet from the property line with 5 trees and 18 shrubs per 100 linear feet proposed between the service center and the abutting residential property on West Mariana. I'm going to try to point that out. It's this buffer right here.
Okay, so it extends just down to the terminus of the property line?
Yes,
or does
ma'am.
it continue? What's the hatching?
So the hatching is actually the buffer. There's a perimeter berm, which is one of the darker lines shown, and I'm going to just keep this going around.
But the wall does not extend. My master concept plan was very small to try to see
Yes,
exactly where the
ma'am.
wall was, and I couldn't follow it exactly from the narrative. So
I agree. I can't see it on 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17.
it would extend solely from the north to the south of the property that's immediately abutting to the east.
Yes.
Okay.
A 20-foot wide type C buffer with 10 trees and 30 shrubs per 100 linear feet is proposed near the single-family lots on West Mariana and Manny Road. And that is this buffer here, all the way down this way, because those 2 lots are single-family, and this lot here is single-family.
And those are abutting the indigenous preserve and the dry detention area?
Yes, ma'am. We did request a deviation to not provide the normally required 8-foot high wall at that location, since it is the designated indigenous preserve and drainage area. Staff did support that deviation request because no vertical construction or parking is located in that location. Open space on Tract 1 is 24% and 32% on Tract 2, which does include 0.84 acres of indigenous tree preservation. Additional uses for Master Concept Plan A include administrative offices, auto and boat parts store, car wash, and storage. We do have several deviations accompanied with Master Concept Plan A. Deviation 1 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 34-1352C1A, which is the requirement to provide a minimum street setback of 50 feet to all buildings and structures. We're requesting to permit the sales, office, and detail center to be located a minimum of 25 feet from West Mariana Avenue and Judd Road on Tract 1. And I can go back and forth if you'd like me to. So it's 25 feet here and here.
And can you identify, again, it's hard to see, I think I discerned from the master concept plan where everything is, but for the
Yes,
benefit of everyone.
this is the retail sales and service center. I'm sorry, detail center. So we're asking for a 25-foot setback to West Mariana instead of 50, and also a 25-foot setback to Judd Road instead of 50.
And otherwise, it's just going to be parking or sales display.
Yes, ma'am.
Between those buildings and 41.
Correct.
Okay.
Deviation number 2 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 34-1352G, the requirement that landscaping adjacent to rights-of-way external to the development project must be located within a landscape buffer easement that is a minimum of 25 feet wide. We're requesting to permit the landscape buffer between the display area and the rights-of-way on Tract 1 to be 20 feet wide. And again, staff did support that deviation request. Deviation 3 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 34-1352H. It's the requirement to provide an architecturally designed 8-foot-high solid wall adjacent to residentially zoned or residentially developed properties. We're requesting permission to not provide the 8-foot-high wall where the indigenous preserve and drainage area abut the existing residential lots on Tract 2. And I'm going to show you which ones those are again. Here and here. We thought that the property owners would rather see the indigenous tree preserve and the landscape buffers and the detention area, which will be all green open space instead of having the wall around their properties. And again, staff did support that deviation. Deviation number 4 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 10-416B, the requirement to provide building perimeter plantings equal to 10% of the proposed building's gross ground floor level area. We're requesting to permit building perimeter plantings equal to 6% of the gross ground floor area of the repair and service building on Tract 2. The reason for that is because of the overhead garage doors that allow the vehicles to enter and exit for service. Deviation 5 was withdrawn. Deviation 6 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 34-2020B, the requirement to provide 4 spaces per bay plus 1 space per employee for automotive repair and service. We're requesting to permit the service bays to count towards the minimum parking calculations, and staff also supported that request.
And is that the service center, is that ancillary to the sales center that's on the adjacent site, or is that open to the public for anyone to come there for service?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I apologize that I do not know the answer. When I was first approached by the applicant, the intent was to operate an RV and boat sales center along 41 and then allow the sales and service center on Tract 2 to repair those RVs and boats. But
it wasn't clear for me, again, whether it's all designed to be a cohesive development that's servicing itself, or if it was intended, you know, for example, like an auto dealership of
Right.
to buy something from the Ford dealership, you return to the Ford dealership to service that vehicle. But is this also going to be advertised and open to the public where you're expecting anyone and everyone who needs RV service to be coming to it?
as large as the service bays are, and I apologize, the applicant is not here, so I shouldn't speak for him, but the intent was for them to act cohesively. Deviation 7 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 10-416D11. The requirement that not more than 20% of the width of the buffer be impervious surface. We're requesting to permit the proposed 6-foot wide concrete sidewalks to encroach into the right-of-way buffers on Tracts 1 and Tract 2. The reason for that is because there's existing drainage swales and ditches along West Mariana, and we're proposing the sidewalks on our property. Staff did recommend support of that deviation. So that completes my presentation for Master Concept Plan Scenario A. If you have any other questions before I go to B?
Just in general, and I don't know if it's better asked here or not, there was repeated mention in the justification document for the deviation saying that careful site design had gone into especially Tract 2 to try to buffer the adjoining residents from the impacts of that
Yes.
site. Was there any opportunity to move the building, because it is centrally located on that tract, farther west to try to further separate?
The problem that we came into was the Indigenous Preserve requirement, because as you can see, it's located towards the south. We were trying to provide as much open space and vegetation between the commercial development and the residential lots. We could have moved.
And you're on B, I'm talking about A. I'm sorry, no, because the self-storage to me is a less concerning use, because you're not going to have a lot of traffic or noise generated from that facility. But this one, it does seem to be right in the middle of the lot. I didn't know if there was any opportunity to have tried to locate it farther to the west.
The service bays with the large overhead doors are 45 feet in depth because of the size of the RVs and mobile homes and boats that they will be servicing. We also had to provide a turning radius exhibit to make sure that they could enter and exit safely while there are other vehicles in the lot, so they don't interfere with those. The drive aisles are wider than you would see in a normal development for a car or truck. So it does kind of seem that it is centered. We're hoping that, well, our intent was that the parking area here for vehicles, boats, and RVs awaiting service will also act as a shield and buffer before you get to the wall in the actual landscaping to this property here. So it's quite a distance between the actual building and the property line.
And the way, just to reiterate, I think you mentioned if it'll be wall and then landscaping. So
Yes, ma'am.
residents aren't looking at the wall. They should
Correct.
be seeing their landscaping.
That is
between.
correct. MCPB shows scenario 2 with a convenience food and beverage store and fuel pumps on Tract 1 along North Cleveland Avenue, and the public warehouse and storage on Tract 2 east of Judd Road. Again, access to both tracts remains the same as MCPA, with access on West Mariana and Judd Road. And like MCPA, sidewalks are proposed along all street rights-of-way, and Lee Tran is still located on the north side of West Mariana. The buffer on Tract 1 is a 25-foot wide landscape buffer with an undulating berm and 5 trees per 100 linear feet and a double staggered hedgerow. This meets the requirements for a gas station and convenience stores in Land Development Code section 34-1352, I believe. The buffers on Tract 2 include 15-foot wide Type D buffers along the rights-of-way. A Type D buffer requires 5 trees per 100 linear feet and a double staggered hedgerow. A 25-foot wide buffer with 8-foot high wall set back 25 feet from the property line with 5 trees and 18 shrubs per 100 linear feet, where the proposed storage facility abuts the single-family use along West Mariana. And again, that buffer is right here. So again, it's public warehouse, 8-foot high wall, landscape buffer. A 5-foot wide Type A buffer with 4 trees per 100 linear feet is proposed along the south to the place of worship. And a 20-foot wide Type C buffer with 10 trees and 30 shrubs per 100 linear feet is proposed along the single-family lots near West Mariana and Judd Road. I'm sorry, that should be Manny Road, I apologize. The applicant requested a deviation to not provide the 8-foot high wall that's normally required for the same reason that the Indigenous Preserve and Drainage area are located there, and there's no actual vertical construction or parking lot. Open space on Tract 1 is 31%. Open space on Tract 2 is 34%, and that does include the 0.84 acres of indigenous tree preservation. I discussed the primary uses, but other uses on Master Concept Plan B include administrative offices, car wash, and storage, and other minor miscellaneous uses that are typical for commercial development. We requested 3 deviations for scenario B. Deviation number 8 seeks relief from the Land Development Code, Section 33-1581, Table 2. It's the requirement to provide a solid berm or wall and berm combination not less than 8 feet in height as part of a Type C buffer. We're requesting permission to not provide the 8-foot-high wall. This is similar to the deviation requested for scenario A, and again, staff did support that deviation request. Deviation 9 seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 34-17481D. The requirement that gates must be set back a minimum of 100 feet from the street right-of-way or easement. We're requesting to permit the proposed gate for the storage facility be set back 50 feet from Judd Road. And I'm going to go back to the master concept plan so you can see. We have the gate right here. So we did provide an opportunity for vehicles to exit off of Judd Road and then turn around if they're denied access and then exit. And staff did support that deviation request. The last deviation seeks relief from Land Development Code Section 34-17485. It's the requirement that a paved turnaround having a turning radius sufficient to accommodate a U-turn for a single unit truck as specified in the AASHTO Green Book must be provided on the ingress side of the gate or gatehouse. We're requesting to provide a dedicated area in the parking lot to turn around if access through the gate near West Mariana Avenue is denied. And I'm going to show you that. So there isn't enough room to have enough stacking depth to have a gate here. So the gate is actually located here. So when vehicles enter off of West Mariana, if they can't get through this gate, they can back up into this dedicated turning area. It's a no parking zone. And then exit in a forward manner back onto West Mariana. So all in all, we did request a total of 9 deviations. Staff did support all 9 of those deviations. We do believe that the deviations do enhance the achievement of the objectives of the plan development and that they are not detrimental to the public interest. And I'm going to stop here if you have any other questions.
There was one, it's one that gets missed a lot, but 33-1572 talks about publicly accessible open space required in the North Fort Myers planning community if you're along the commercial corridor and in the mixed-use overlay, which Tract 1 is. Did you request a deviation from that section, or are you complying with it?
We will be complying with that.
Okay. That was, I wanted to check to be sure. Sometimes that one's not addressed.
All right, I'm going to move forward. I apologize, this is so long. I just want to make sure that I answer all your questions.
I appreciate it. No, there's a lot to this case.
There is. The lead plan analysis. The full and detailed analysis was provided with the applicant's narrative of request. I just want to go over, just give you a brief overview demonstrating that proposed rezoning is consistent with the lead plan, and I can elaborate as needed. So the subject property is in the intensive development future land use category along a commercial corridor. Urban services are available and adequate to service the proposed development. This is consistent with lead plan policy 1.1.2, objective 2.1 development location, objective 2.2 development timing, and policies 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.2.1, and 2.2.2. Lee County Utilities and Florida Governmental Utility Authority did provide letters confirming availability and capacity to provide potable water and sanitary sewer service to the development. In addition, the applicant is preserving the existing stand of trees on Tract 2. This is consistent with Objective 4.1 water, sewer, and environmental standards. Both master concept plans have been designed to focus commercial uses along the rights of way where possible, and is far from existing single-family uses as needed. The indigenous tree preserve and large drainage areas are located east on Tract 2, providing additional buffering and screening to the existing single-family lots and uses along West Mariana and Judd Road. Manny Road, I apologize, I have that wrong in every narrative. There's one existing single-family lot that abuts the development on Tract 2, a large buffer with the 8-foot-high wall set back 25 feet from the property line is proposed between the development and that single-family lot with the vegetation on the residential side of the wall. If scenario A is developed and Tract 1 is used for service and repair, the hours of operation would be standard daytime hours. If scenario B is developed as a public warehouse, traffic and noise would be minimal. Conditions have been added to the development to safeguard the public interest and compatibility. This is consistent with Lee Plan Policy 5.1.5. The proposed development does comply with Lee Plan Goal 6, commercial land uses, including Objective 6.1, Policy 6.1.1, and Policies 6.1.3 through 6.1.7.
To go to that narrative for a second,
Sure.
The hours of operations, I don't recall there being a specific condition about that. Is that?
There is not, but we would be amenable to that because that's standard.
Thank you.
The proposed development is also consistent with Lee Plan Policy 11.2.1, the mixed-use overlay on Tract 1. The property is located in the North Fort Myers planning community along a commercial corridor. A public information meeting was held with the North Fort Myers Design Review Committee and received their support. The proposed development is consistent with Lee Plan Goal 30, Objective 30.2, and Policies 30.2.2, 30.2.5, and 30.2.6. A development order from Lee County and Environmental Resource Permit through the South Florida Water Management District will be required for development. Those permits will require consistency with the Lee Plan. Goal 60, the Coordinated Surface Water Management and Land Use Planning, and Goal 125, Water Quality. The engineer of record will go into further detail on stormwater management during his presentation. At this point, I'm going to hand this over to Dean Martin, PE, to review traffic, drainage, and utilities, and then I will come back to summarize our presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'm Dean Martin, engineer with TDM Consulting. I've previously been accepted as an expert in civil site design and would like to be considered again.
Yes, thank you.
I want to briefly discuss traffic, drainage, and utilities. We'll do traffic first. We worked with TR Transportation, Ted Treesh, to analyze the traffic generation and affected intersections. For zoning traffic analysis, the uses generating the most traffic are used. In this case, a 5,000 square foot convenience store with 20 fueling positions, as shown there, and a 150,000 to 250 square foot mini storage facility, as shown there, were selected. Table 2, which is the top one, shows a summary of the trip generation projections This is, as you can see on the bottom, fairly intense. AM and PM peak hour trips because of the gas station with the refueling positions. And those numbers would be used to analyze any kind of turn lane requirements during the DO phase. Table 4, the bottom table, is showing, it's taking into consideration the new trips that are generated because convenience market and gas station have a lot of pass-by trips that are already on the road, and they see the convenience store and gas station, and it is just decided to pull in. So it's not really affecting the concurrency or the trips on the main roads. And as you can see, it comes down quite a bit because there's a huge pass-by number you're allowed to take to give you true concurrency analysis on US 41. So table 5 shows the analysis of the level of service on all the nearby intersections. And this is required when you have the high AM and PM peak numbers that we're generating for this project, for this zoning project. As you can see, yeah, thanks. As you can see, they're virtually, and this is done projected at 2027 background conditions based on the projected build out of the gas station and the self-storage facility. Virtually identical conditions prior to development and after development. So this generation was provided to you to show that with or without the project being developed, the level of service for all the intersections nearby will not be affected. Will not have any adverse impacts, is how I should have worded that. And adverse impacts are defined as a degradation of the level of service beyond the adopted level of service threshold for the link. And all these are, I mean, as you can see, the ones that are already failing, they're failing with or without. And as I said previously, for zoning traffic studies, turn lane warrants are not analyzed. These will be analyzed and addressed as needed during the time of local development order when the specific uses are known.
Is there a concurrent development order in right now for either of these development plans?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so the applicant truly doesn't have a commitment to either at this time. They're seeking approval for both?
There's some potential buyers for the site. We're not at liberty to discuss it at this point, but he is marketing it because he's a realtor. But as of right now, there's no firm pending DO, correct. Was there any other questions on traffic?
No.
Okay. All right, I want to use this area location map to talk about drainage. That's not what I'm going to do. We want to use the master concept plan to talk about drainage. On both sides of the site, the west and the east, we're proposing dry retention areas that are interconnected by pipes. The east site will discharge into US 41 swale, which is right along on our side of US 41, which will force us to go through the FDOT drainage criteria, which is quite intensive, 36 different flood routings, and and a berm around the site with half a foot of freeboard, so there's really no chance of any water generated on the site, stormwater, overtopping the berm into the rights of way nearby. On the west, I'm sorry, this is the east. On the east, we are not adjacent to FDOT, so we're going to discharge into the roadside swale along Judd. We will be getting a water management permit from South Florida Water Management, as Veronica's previously mentioned. And this as well will have a berm around it, but it's a different criteria. We'll be having to do the 25-year, 3-day storm event, and that peak stage will set our stages for the berm height. Again, if you have a 25-year, 3-day storm, that's 11 inches in this area in 3 days. It's quite intense. So we don't anticipate any overtopping of the berm in either situation to affect the nearby surrounding roadways or neighbors.
And the ERP that you both have mentioned, is that a cohesive development, or are there independent units now? It's sounding like the western parcel is going to be draining to the west to 41, and the eastern parcel is going to have an independently operated system?
There'll be separate development orders and separate ERPs.
Okay. But they both do require an ERP, even the one along 41?
Probably not this one. This one is not 2 acres of impervious or 10 acres total, which are the criteria for an ERP. So this one will require, even though we're not doing an ERP, we are doing the FDOT, which is more intense because they have different storm events than water management does. In fact, we have more drainage areas and higher volume requirements for FDOT than we do for South Florida. So this one will be more intense in terms of the underground chambers or the above ground drainage areas. Any more questions on the drainage?
Just, I guess, as a conclusion, will the development impact externally to the residents that are adjoining this site in any positive or negative fashion from the result of this development if you've proposed it?
I think it'll be a net positive for the surrounding area because of the fact we have to do the intense modeling for the stormwater and put the berms around it and have controlled discharge. Right now, it just free flows.
There's
Wherever,
free flow going.
yeah, wherever it wants. It just goes wherever it wants. And now we're going to provide detention. We're going to provide a controlled discharge. We're putting berms around it. So really, it's going to be a net positive.
And despite a significant storm event, your testimony was that the water you anticipate is going to stay on site and not overflow the berm?
As an engineer, I have to tell you, I can never design something that will never flood.
Sure.
If we get back-to-back hurricanes,
Of course, but the
Yeah.
way that you've, on a normal day, it's not going.
normal day, we won't have any flooding here.
Thank you. Did staff have any questions? I should have asked you previously.
I don't. No.
Okay, thank you.
We'll use this area location map to discuss utilities. Potable water is provided by Lee County Utilities. They have indicated to us that they have sufficient capacity to service this project. The nearest bigger water main is on the south side of 41. So we'll be directional drilling under 41 for domestic water and for fire protection. There are a few nearby fire hydrants that are not shown on here. My anticipation is that we'll be putting a hydrant on both sites once they're developed for fire protection and potentially even sprinkling the buildings. Sanitary Sewers serviced by Florida Governmental Utility Authority, FGUA. There's an 8-inch gravity sewer, again, across the road, unfortunately. So we'll be directional drilling to come across the road to the south side of 41 to tie into the gravity mains. I anticipate that gravity main to be very deep, so we should not have to do a pump station for sewer, but we do have to do gravity across the road. And that concludes my presentation.
To conclude my presentation, or our presentation, I just wanted to go over the review criteria for commercial plan development. The applicant has proven entitlement to the rezoning as set forth in Land Development Code, Section 34-145D4. The request does comply with the LEAP plan. It does meet the Land Development Code and other applicable county regulations, or qualifies for a deviation, is compatible as conditioned with the existing and planned uses in the surrounding area, will provide access sufficient to support the proposed development intensity. The expected impacts on transportation facilities will be addressed by existing county regulations or conditions of approval. It will not adversely affect environmentally critical or sensitive areas and natural resources, and will be served by urban services. Additional findings for plan developments include the fact that the proposed use or mix of uses is appropriate at the proposed location. The recommended conditions do provide sufficient safeguards to the public interest and are reasonably related to the impacts on the public's interest expected from the proposed development. The requested deviations do enhance the achievement of the objectives of the plan developments and preserves and promotes the general intent of the Land Development Code to protect the health, safety, and welfare. That does conclude our presentation, and we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I asked them as we went along.
Okay.
Set for now, thank you. Staff's ready to proceed. Thank you. So this is a copy of the staff's presentation. I will go ahead and mark that as staff exhibit 2, because staff exhibit 1 is the staff report. Thank you and good afternoon.
Hi there. My name is Dirk Danley. I've been previously accepted as an expert witness in the Lee County Land Development Code and Lee Plan. I would like to also do so again today.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'll try to fill in if there are any remaining gaps with the applicant's presentation. So I might be skipping over some slides as we go through, just for the sake of reducing redundancy here. But the request does have these two different scenarios that are being sought. It is a rezoning for 7.42 acres, which are currently commercial plan development and single family residential, and they are seeking a commercial plan development for the entire site. There's a little bit of zoning history on the property. It's not very significant, but there was originally a commercial plan development rezoned by NZ 7008 for a commercial office building. And then a portion of the property is also zoned to CPD by resolution Z01-001. And then the remaining of the property is zoned to single family residential. And just for reference, here's an aerial again. This was the 07 case, this is the 01 case. The two master concept plans that have been gone through at length, so I won't belabor the point, do show this is the RV and boat repair and boat sales. Master concept plan A, and it was brought up, but just to reiterate, the portions that protrude into the residential area are either preserve or water detention areas. And that, at the onset of this case, staff recommended as they move forward to ensure that that protection's in place for the residential community. Same goes for the second master concept plan, including the gas station, the storage building. I just wanted to put it on the record. I don't know if it was, I assume it was noted by the applicant, but in our recommendation, we did recommend a stair stepping of the 35-foot storage building if they were to use the minimum setback just to provide additional compatibility with that neighboring residential property. And then once again, that preserve and drainage area. I believe it's condition 4.3. Just so it's made clear. anyway, I'll keep going.
You're correct, it's condition 3.
It is condition 3. Okay, so in reviewing the land development code decision-making criteria for rezonings, there are a handful of criteria that the applicant's gone through. Specific to planned developments, that also includes deviation criteria for when to be able to recommend approval. Just to begin with, the property is in the intensive development future land use category. That's the entirety of it. I know that there's some portions that are on the commercial corridor, some that are in the mixed use overlay, but the entire portion is in the intensive development future land use category, which does facilitate a higher level of commercial development or residential or higher density residential development as well. It is located along major arterial roadways and does have a significant level of urban services as well. And to be companion with that, objectives 2.1 and 2.2 really facilitate new commercial development in areas that are well planned for urban services. And I have a list of that was listed out in the staff report, and I can read through some of those, what urban services are available to these properties. That includes public sewer and water. The water, as the applicant stated, is, the water is drinking, the actual potable water, is for the Lee County Lee County utilities. And then the wastewater is FGUA in this area. And then there's a significant arterial roadway with US 41. It's a state maintained arterial roadway. Something just to note is that improvements as they come in for this development order, anything that impacts the FDOT right of way will have to go through additional approvals through them, not just county DOT. There is public transit. Lee Trans Route 140 is what is adjacent to the property or nearby. As they go through the development order process, they may have to improve the stops that are nearby, or one of the nearest stop to their property. There are park and rec facilities nearby. Judd Park is of note. The property has significant access to police, fire, and emergency services. And then there's bike and pedestrian facilities as well that are adjacent to the site. Policy 5.1.5 just speaks to protecting the character of existing and planned residential communities. As we discussed earlier, the master concept plan does try to provide that extra level of protection adjacent to those residential areas, with the preserve area and the water retention being in the back, as well as the 8-foot wall that was discussed by the applicant. The applicant did go through these, but just to speak to them again, policy 6.1.1, 6.1.4, 6.1.6, and 6.1.7 are really the nuts and bolts for commercial development review. All of these things were reviewed at the time of zoning, and many of these things will be reviewed once again at time of development order. That includes traffic impacts, compatibility, landscape open space and buffering. You did bring up the civic space. Because they didn't ask for a deviation, they'll need to demonstrate that on the DO plans where that will actually be located for the publicly accessible open space.
And because this is in the North Fort Myers community, they'll have to come back for the community review at the
Yes.
time of development order as well.
Yeah. So did speak briefly to it earlier. This property is partially within the mixed use overlay. The uses that they seek in the mixed use overlay parts of the development don't really benefit very much from what's allowed or what relief the mixed use overlay provides, because they are, the sales use or the convenience food and beverage store use. Both of those really have additional language in the code that kind of accepts them out of the mixed use overlay benefits of reduced buffers and setbacks and everything else. And that's why they came back to seek some relief, because they are on a triple frontage site. So making everything fit does have its challenges, at least that triangular piece that's in the mixed use overlay. And then just real briefly on the North Fort Myers community plan area, There are additional requirements that they have to meet in Chapter 33. And then, consistency with the policies as well as it pertains to, enhancements to the property. In this case with landscape buffering and shading. And because they're seeking these uses that already require a lot of this extra landscaping, they've kind of already complied with that just based on the uses at least along the corridor. And so staff finds them consistent with that policy as well, or these policies as well. The water quality was spoken to at length. I won't get too far into it, but there are a number of policies that the applicant will have to comply with. And as they go through the ERP process, and anything with FDOT's requirements, they would likely be consistent with these policies as well. And while we don't normally get into the details of stormwater other than at a high level at zoning, we did find them consistent with these policies. I don't think I need to go through the deviations again, but just to reiterate, we are in agreement with the applicant's request. There are several conditions being proposed with each of the deviations. Deviation 5 was withdrawn, and so the applicant did state that. Just wanted to also restate that to make sure that that was clear. And so in summary, staff does find the request consistent with the decision-making criteria, and we are here with any questions that you may have.
The only question on the deviations that I noticed when you just went through, they're asking for a separate deviation on an 8-foot wall. It's a different citation because of the use differential, but does the 33 citation need to be included as well, just an abundance of caution? For MCP, I think it's 1, that it was from 34 instead of 33. I guess the question would be, did staff look at that, or is it you obviously are not
It was-
objecting?
What number?
It's deviation 3 under Master Concept Plan A. It's citing 34-1352 because it is held to that standard, but on Master Concept Plan B, it's from 33-1581, which I think applies in either.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Okay, I'll just add that then,
Okay.
but staff wouldn't object
No.
in either case. Okay, thank you. Did applicant have any questions of the staff?
No.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to call up the cards that I have now. So again, if you could just come to the podium when I call your name. The first card I have is Scott Bonstrom, and I apologize if I butcher any names. And I think you may have walked in, sir, after I administered the oath. Did you take an oath yet?
No, I haven't. I came in
Okay.
late.
If you could raise your hand then. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide as the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Could you identify, generally, you don't have to, your specific
Actually, I can
location?
point to it right here.
That would be wonderful.
This is the parcel that my company owns,
Okay,
and this was zone commercial. This was previously residential, as it's still shown in here, but we did go through zoning,
okay,
and this is now fully commercial
okay.
property.
Thank
Our-
you.
We are almost through with engineering and going to be submitting for a DO on constructing a new facility for our electrical contracting company that we're moving from Cape Coral. I guess I have a clarification question first off, and I'm not familiar whether they're presenting two options. Is this an either or does the zoning pass and just say, then they can take the next step and apply for either the first option or the second option? Or are we able to comment and say, we prefer the first option, we prefer the second option? I guess it's a clarification on what's happening with zoning here right now.
And I think I said before, we don't usually answer questions, but that's a great question to kind of lay the foundation, so I'll answer that one.
Okay.
They're asking for approval overall of a CPD, of a rezoning to a commercial plan development, so that's the base request. In addition to that, then they've identified 2 separate site plans that would go along with that, saying they'll develop either A or B. So I think you heard the presentations of what those involved. Before they can do either of those things, though, because they're also in the North Fort Myers planning community, they have to come back back to the planning community, not through this process, but through the planning community, and present which of those options they're going to actually be pursuing a development order for. So there would be another opportunity for public review, not at this level, but at the community local level, once they make that election. But at this point, one of the questions I asked was whether they had an inclination of which of them they'd be pursuing, and the response on the record was that they do not. So
Okay.
any comments you have about either of them would be welcome, so that we can make note of that.
Okay, I guess, I don't have a lot of comments. I mean, I guess I kind of support the zoning. However, I do have, I think similar to maybe some of the residences, that the traffic and the fact of having another gas station in the area, I think I'm probably a little bit against that, just because there's so many gas stations in the area already. Plus, with the future changing towards electric vehicles, I think this is probably a short-lived option. There's also a few gas stations that have closed, it's my understanding, within a short perimeter of this. So, you know, I feel that we'd probably be opposed to that type of development. However, rezoning to commercial. I do appreciate the fact that can I point to the map again?
Yes.
Okay, I said I do appreciate the fact that what they propose on either one of the options is kind of closing off access to Manny Road and leaving that a little bit more natural state. And I think that will actually help with a separation with the residential area. So I kind of agree to that. I'm glad that they proposed something like that. Other than that, I really don't have any comments at this level. We'll just have to see what they do propose going forward as to exactly what development they're looking at doing. So,
Thank you.
okay, yeah, thank you.
For coming today, sir. The next card I have is for Donald Futz. Again, I so apologize. I'm really bad at this, and I try very hard. Fossil?
You're absolutely fine.
Fuel soul? Fuse. I'll eventually get there if I keep trying.
You're fine. I'm not really sure what to ask, and I'll be the first one to tell you I'm going to plead my ignorance. I live right across the street from the vacant lot. For some reason, I don't understand why you folks feel that you need a residential lot and turn it into commercial. Someone needs to explain that to me. The next question is, and I thought I heard you say, Veronica, somewhere along the line about the 8-foot wall, but then there was something said about we didn't think the residents would want to look at an 8-foot wall, so we're going to plant trees. Well, you can plant all the trees you want, but that's not going to stop the noise. So my biggest question is, I want to know what you're going to do with this lot. I live right across from this lot. I don't want a road put in there. I don't want to have to deal with the traffic. I don't want to have to deal with the noise. And if you put a convenience center out there and make this an access, guess who's going to be over there cleaning up the garbage that the people throw out from the convenience center when they're done with it and open up their packages? Me. So my biggest question is what are you planning on doing with that lot? And why do you need it? Why do you need a residential lot for commercial? That's my biggest questions.
Thank you, sir.
That's it. Thank you.
Right, the next card I have is for Gina Bovin. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. I second my neighbor, Don. I live right next to him, so I'm not really good at these map things, but I think this is my house right here,
Okay.
or the one next to it, but I'm his neighbor.
On Manny Road.
Yes, on Manny Road. I guess I have a few things. One, I want to say that everybody who's here are not the people who are going to be living with that project. I'm kind of disappointed that the property owner isn't here, or any of the companies who want to put in there are not here to hear us and take in what we have to say. And I hope that the county takes that into consideration when they make their decisions, because to me it says they really don't care. They just want to get passed so they can build, You know, on Manny Road, if you look at any of the homeowners' houses, our homes are all well maintained. We're middle-class families. We can't afford to buy in some big gated community. None of us owe that much on our homes, and this is what we have. You know, it's everything to us. And if you go down our street, you're going to see homeless people. You're going to see shopping carts from Walmart. You're going to see trash everywhere. That does not come from the homeowners. That comes from the businesses that are in that area that don't care about the residents of that community. I had a question because thank you for answering my questions yesterday. She was so kind. Obviously, this is a big deal to us. The two projects, can I ask her a question?
You can.
Okay.
You can choose whether to answer them now or at the completion.
So the second was for a convenience store and then just a storage unit? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was my only question on that. Regarding the convenience store and gas station, like, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Scott. I always want to call him Kevin. From Racetrack, from Hancock and Cleveland, if you go 41 north to 5.3 miles, you're going to encounter 10 gas stations. One of them is closed permanently, and that's right across the street, almost from where they want to put this one, and one of them just reopened. We also live in that area of 41 where that great big Hancock shopping center is. That is such an eyesore, and in my opinion, deters business, you know, new development business from coming in. So my concern is, are we going to have another abandoned business going in there? Because I don't see a need for another gas station on 41 in that area. And if it does go up, it's going to put that other smaller gas station out of business, and they're important to us too. Also, gas stations of that size are open late, have lots of lights, and attract homeless people. And I am not against homeless people. I care about them all. But I do like the quiet enjoyment of my home. Speaking of quiet enjoyment, I happen to work directly next to Fort Myers Marine, and I've worked there for several years. They have no respect of other people's property. When I don't know how anybody ever decided that noise would not be a factor to the residents on Manny Road. I can play a video that I took just the other day. All day long, I'm in the old Harry Chapin food bank. I don't know if any of you guys know where that is. I've actually talked to you many times on the phone. It's block and then more block inside. So our offices are inside of a blocked building, inside of walk-in freezers that are blocked in all day long. You hear it, veer, 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 veer. You know, I mean, it's all day, backfiring, backfiring, backfiring. They park right outside our exits. It is a right-of-way, but it's not a parking lot. They have no respect. And to say that they're going to be normal working hours, and are they going to be Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and not on Wednesdays? Because I have a right to enjoy my home after I've worked 40 hours too, and I don't want to hear that all day at work and all day there. But where I'm at work, I'm in an industrial area. At my house, I'm in a residential area. Sidewalks. So there aren't that many sidewalks in our community, and nobody maintains them. The only ones so over on Evergreen, which I don't think is really affected by this, but Mariana, nobody maintains those sidewalks. The county doesn't maintain them. I don't know who's supposed to, but nobody wants to walk there because they're all overgrown. And they're right next to 3 retention ponds, right here, here, and here, that overflow. So if those retention ponds, they overflowed last week. That was not tropical storm, it was not anything like that. But if they overflow, those are 3 big retention ponds. How is the one closer to our house not going to overflow? Because you're taking away even more, what is that called? Impermeable ground, and concreting it. So I am personally 100% dead set against the boat sales place, fine, but the repair on that property, on this So it would be this property that the
Yes.
repairs would go on?
That's right.
Closest to our house. I mean, that's crazy. That is just, I don't even understand. When I just heard that the approval's already been recommended, I'm devastated to hear that. Because everybody here has had an opportunity to work with and provide answers that are the right answers according to the law and everything. But I live in that community and I work next to the other one. And I'm here to tell you, it is not going to be nice if that happens. Also, I want to know on the record, I want to have my question on the record so that I can bring it up in front of the county commissioners. Lighting. Like, is it going to be lit up all night if it's a gas station or if it's a marina? Surely they're probably going to light it up all night. That's also going to affect our community. You know, when the three planets aligned, I was able to see them with my naked eye. I won't be able to see them with something like that is right there. And I cannot afford to sell my property and go move somewhere else. And they can afford to go build somewhere else. And there are other properties that will fit them as is. So why do they have to take these two little pieces of land and try to fit something in there that really doesn't work for the community when they could just go a little bit further and build something else? Not a gas station, because we don't need it there. I mean, it would make sense to me to put like an attorney's office or a veterinarian or someplace, you know, a professional like his, where they're there for the business hours and then they go home. But to put something like that, and they're not going to take care of it because none of the other businesses take care of their properties. I was robbed this year. Somebody came onto my property, through my gate, into our carport, and stole $2,500 worth of tools. We have cameras, so they got him, and he's in prison now. But he's a homeless person that lives in the community. And we can't do anything about it. You know, I mean, my property was discarded on his property. And we didn't get it because it was already gone by the time they got the guy. But the businesses don't care about the residents on that road. And you all might, but they are not going to. Once they get their business in, they're going to do whatever they need to do to make money because that's how the world works. So I'm begging you to keep that in mind when you make your recommendation. But I have a feeling it's already going to go through, and we'll bring it up to the Board of County Commissioners. I also urge you, and I beg you, please go spend some time in our community and outside of their community when they don't know you're coming. Because it is very loud. It is loud all day, all day, all day. And also, I don't know if there's any way we can put in there that they're not going to be moving boats on our street. All day long, they're pulling boats in and out with the tractor all day, in and out, in and out, in and out. And where I live, okay, so I live here, okay? There's a stop sign right here. This house doesn't have a driveway on this street, its driveway is there. So when I come out my driveway right here, if this increases the traffic on Manny Road, then I'm gonna run into a traffic jam, even just getting out of my community, my house. So I just don't see how either plan makes sense for the residents of that area whatsoever. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
And thank you. I'm sorry I'm so mad.
Oh, yeah. We're fine. The last card I have is for William Mooney. Good afternoon,
Hello.
sir.
My name's Tom Mooney. It's William Thomas. I go by Tom. I'm probably the one that's most directly affected by this zoning. I live at 1673 Manny Road, and that would be this home right here. And my garage is behind my house, right back here. And this property is how I access my garage. When I bought the house, it was there that way. There's an easement. When I bought the house, running right through here, power lines and a ditch that runs right through there. And that's my access to my garage. and I have a motor home, an awning and stuff, everything's permitted, done the right way, so they gave me permits to do this, so they knew that I had to have access through there to do that. If they put a berm around there, which you said, and I want it on record, that will effectively close me off to my garage and my motor home. I can't do anything back there. And I need provisions to get to my, what I got to do out there, and I spend a lot of time in my garage, most men do, you know. And I am also concerned about the traffic because you have Walmart, and I don't know how many times I've been woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning with garbage people with their dumpsters behind Walmart on those plazas. Bang, bang, bang. They shove their boxes in there until they can't get any more in there, and then they got to bang them to get them out, and they wake you up, which that's to me that's minor stuff. I had hurricane windows put in my house, and it you know, dulled the noise some, but that's noise. Plus you have Par Services that's over there also, and there is a lot of traffic at Par Services. And those people at Par Services, they get there in the morning, they're late for work. They don't even need those stop signs there because they don't stop at them, they just go. Police have actually sat in my driveway waiting to catch people and stuff, and I give them permission to because they'll sit on the side of the road. I said, don't do that, that's dangerous, park in my driveway. I go to work at 6:15 in the morning anyway, and they do that, and they thank me for it. You know, I'm all about the community and helping law enforcement and stuff like that. Let's see here. The berm is my main concern in getting around it, but water. I have pictures on my phone. I told you I'd show you if you'd like to see them. I have it right here. I'll be glad to show you the lot between my house right here and Miss Louise John's house right there. This is solid water, all solid, and it gets up into these trees also. I realize this is green space, and I really appreciate the thought that they're going to keep that all the way that it is. But if they put a berm around there, Louise's house, like I said, I have pictures on my phone. If you'd like to see them, I will be happy to show them to you. Would you like to see them?
I can't accept them. Could you email them to us? That would be,
If you believe me, I'll
we can provide you with
yeah.
and then we'll make
I'll
that
show it
available
you.
to the
And
applicants as well.
You won't believe it. Water's 8 inches deep all the way up to her house. It don't get as far as my house because her house is older than mine, and her house wasn't required to be at the same level as my house, you know. And it gets within about that far of getting in. And the pictures I've got is only from 2 weeks ago after a good, hard, steady rain. And if that's water retention, the water that it retains right now is almost unhandleable with that. As far as what I understand that you have to develop, and I understand everyone else's concerns and stuff about that. But as long as it doesn't directly affect me, you know, what do I care? But this directly affects me. I maintain that. I've lived there since 1999. This lot right here, I've got the lot number and the strap number and stuff. From here to here, I mow all this, and every rainy season, I mow it twice a week, every week. Grass grows like crazy, but I like it to look nice. Miss Louise she's in her 90s. She likes it to look nice also. So I mow the whole thing and make sure that, you know, that I maintain it. And I do use it, and I had permission from Darius Cochran to go ahead and continue to use it. And I had permission from Danny Ballantyne, who he bought the property from. And he told me to go ahead and use it as long as I maintain it. It's perfectly fine with him. And when the homeless people go in there, I go back there and say, guys, you got to leave. These people have asked me to kind of keep an eye on things for them, so I do. A deal's a deal. When I was coming up, you shake hands with the guy, and your word is your word. You know, that's the way that it is. And it's too bad that the world has changed so much. But I do take care of it, and I have since 1999. And would kind of like to keep things the way that it is. I mean, you said earlier before the meeting started, you could work with us on the berm and stuff. I'm open to suggestions, you know, on stuff like that. I don't want to completely halt everything over my concerns, but I am concerned about the neighbors and stuff. And the neighbors, you know, we all get along. We do things for each other. That's what neighbors do. But you know, we have noise and flooding and traffic, and I also have the accessibility to the backside of my house right there, and the power line going through there. The property next to my house has a 4-inch well on it. It all used to be orange groves, and that's what they used for irrigation. As far as all of the swales and stuff that's running around the properties and stuff, I'm pretty sure the swales weren't put there by the county, or I'm pretty sure they were already there from the orange grove, pumping water out of that well into all of the swales and to irrigate all of their orange groves and stuff. So I have a little bit of concern of the size of the cavity that's under that well. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know. It's just a concern. That's what we're here for, to express our concerns. And if need be, we'll take our concerns to, you know, to the next level, depending on how things go. But as you can see, I'm the one that's most directly affected besides Miss Louise, and I'm sure she would be here if she was able, but like I said, she's in her 90s, and I just want to be left alone, and, you know, I keep an eye on her, and if someone walks through her yard, I'm over there telling them, don't walk through Miss Louise's yard. I'm concerned about her. She's elderly, and that's just the way we take care of people, you know. I talked to Don, the guy across the street. I have another neighbor right next to me. His wife is also a realtor, and she gives me a little bit of advice and stuff along the way. But I just want to make note of all my concerns. Make sure I get everything here. I think I pretty much hit everything on the nose, so please take my suggestions into consideration, because yeah, as you can see, if you guys cut me off there, and I have a 40-foot motorhome. I just put up an awning in the back to put that 40-foot motorhome under, and I had concrete poured. It's all just like I'm supposed to. It's all been permitted. The building and stuff all went up. It's all turned the same way my garage is. I have to have access off of this road to swing my motorhome up here and back it up in underneath my awning. If I can't get that, I can't get it back in there. And it's extremely soft over there, especially this time of year. And if I pull my motorhome or even my pickup truck back behind there and it digs ruts or anything, I'm out there with a tamper and I'm tamping it all back down, because I do have to maintain it. I have to be able to get my mower and stuff through it. I don't want to get stuck with my lawnmower. So I take care of it myself. So please take everything I've said into consideration, and I'll probably see you at the next level, I would imagine. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you. And sir, if you could email staff the photos that you have, unless the applicant objects, then they can print them and I can leave the record open and that'll become part of the record.
Okay.
They can provide you with their contact
I'll give you my
information.
card before we
Okay.
Okay, so coming back, did you need any time for rebuttal?
I would like to have time for rebuttal, but I would also like a 5-minute
Yes.
break so I can confer with staff.
Certainly. Okay, so let's actually take a 10-minute break. It's 2:20 right now, so we'll resume at 2:30. Thank you.
Just thinking that maybe we should propose the hours of operation. I take my car to Service Center to Firestone. They're open from, I think, 7 to 7, or 7 to 6.
probably go to see Firestone.
The reason is because they don't have enough on the commercial part.
They're open
So that one portion is already commercial.
Saturday and Sunday too, with different hours, right?
They want to do with it without that extra piece.
I've heard the hours are. But they're also not adjacent to residential.
Yeah. Mine's open till
They're required to have,
Well, you got that urban one.
they're required to have it.
I was trying to see if they
They
could
don't
fit
have
an
that,
easement
then they
for
would
that
have
guy.
green space on it.
Yeah, that's weird, because
They'd have buffer plan conditions.
So we're thinking Monday through Friday, 7 to 6? I mean, Saturday half days? Saturday half day?
Should be later than 7 on a Saturday.
I'm sorry?
Should be later than 7 on a Saturday.
Oh, on Saturday, 7 to 7?
No, like later,
Oh.
like
Oh,
8
9.
to 1 or something. or 9 to 2.
Okay, we'll do 8.
The lot, the L shape back there.
To 2.
That's right.
Roll the dice.
What are you guys gonna deal with the?
So we actually talked to him about that when we first came in. Because Dean asked him, I said, the type of indication to not show any easement. Otherwise, we would have had it on the survey. But we are gonna try to work with him if he had a handshake agreement with Darius, because that's the only access to those garages from his.
She was saying about seeing the secret of 3 planets. I said, that would just be running around my
We're
pants.
just gonna, Dean's gonna just try to work.
Yeah, if you pull the fence back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, there's no wall, it's just the berm.
What's this line right here?
This is the indigenous preserve?
Well, yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Specifically, this like double hashed line here.
That's the buffer?
This,
Oh, that's the berm.
that's the berm?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll have to move it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, okay, so we need to be mindful, I'm all about moving it down, but the toe slope goes into the preserve, now you have impact to the indigenous. Because that's why the dark line's there, because during the review, I asked where that berm was going, because then we need to make sure that when it's built, that there's not impact to the sloping, because the toe slope is gonna run into,
Well,
that's the top of the berm.
yeah, the nice part is it'll resolve itself before we get to the preserve, because it's an issue for like right here.
So it's gonna swerve.
Yeah, it'll swerve.
So the berm will go further south, adjacent to this gentleman's home. And then as it works towards the west, it will go back into play.
He said it was a 15-foot wide easement.
I didn't find anything. I'm curious to know, because he says he's got permits and all that, I'm curious to know what the survey says for that
Yeah.
permitting. Because there's no easements that popped up.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Dean's a miracle worker.
Yeah, there's some space there.
And the survey, I mean, you'd have your legal description.
Okay, so I have traffic, nearby gas stations, rezoning from residential to commercial, trees don't stop noise, no road, no access on Manny Road, because condition number 9. Too many gas stations, hours of operation, sidewalks, stormwater and flooding, lighting. Noise, and then the issue with the access.
Is this the wall here, the
Yeah,
solid line?
yes.
Okay. And it just
So back
ends-
25 feet and it goes, yeah.
Alright, so that works.
And this person didn't show up, I'm surprised by that. The one most affected. So, okay.
Very good.
Okay, I think we're good.
The buffer is forgivable.
So, the only thing I wanted to talk about was hours of operation, so we're gonna propose 7 AM to 6
For the
PM
indigenous.
for the repair and
Too
service
bad they
center.
have to use that area.
And Saturday 8 to 2.
Because if he's taking care of it, they just left it alone, but it's used as, they're gonna use it as their detention.
To be inside the
Yes, they do,
And those are.
which I'm surprised why.
In there.
Yeah, it doesn't noise so much.
I
I'm concerned.
I don't
I mean, maybe the garage doors are open, you still have 3 signs that are enclosed, you know?
Mr. Danley, you have helped us so much, actually. My boss is the one that, this was
Yeah.
one of the properties he was looking at, but you were helping us try to find something in the corridor for a business. He ended up buying the property on Lafayette and Evans, and he's rebuilding that for our new 300,000 square foot facility.
I didn't print the master concept plan,
Walmart, have our products put on the shelf.
except
But
in
he
here.
left behind.
Are you able to read
When they said it was you, I was really.
this
happy.
distance or this distance?
Are you kidding me? I have worse eyes than you. I can try.
Get you, if we have time, I'll get you order in it.
Okay, thank you very much.
No.
Okay, yeah.
That's like, well, how big big is the building, you
So
remember?
this should be 45. I think that's 30. I
75?
want to say it was like 100.
It's like 100 to the property line.
Yeah.
With a wall and with trees and shrubs, which will grow thick eventually.
I'm going to see if he has it. I'm not going to get it.
So, because it's an Fort Myers thing, so we're trying to do that. So it's curious to me that, because we looked at all that, legals, and you can't have required plans and easement. So I'm curious to know what's going on here.
It's a lot.
I wonder if it was taken care of, because I was like,
Oh, we liked our neighborhood, it was nice.
Section, she said,
I understand. We did a lot.
for example,
I mean, I do the buffer.
that building's probably right up against their property line.
Yeah.
It's only 130 feet away.
The noise might be a factor, for certain, as far as I'm concerned, it's not really.
There's a wall that's going in on the ones that both sitting there, there's a wall against that use. The repair. Wall is going to attenuate more than.
I thought there'd be more people here
Buffer
today.
is further for
Yeah.
Dirk told me there'd be lots of people here today.
blockage of
There was more here the other day.
use that's going on there because the health safety issue. So we have to provide that.
People can get off work, you know, a lot of times.
Was Darius here last night?
No.
Focus more to the east and not have that
He doesn't usually come though.
I don't know. I would think he would want to come to this.
Maybe. No, I knew. Because I had to tell him that we postponed it. Yeah. I told him. So Adam was playing hooky today, huh?
Adam? He is at the APA conference,
I know.
giving the county's perspective on build-to-rent housing,
Where's that at?
Lando.
Orlando.
Is it a par 70 course?
I don't know if he golfs. I haven't asked him that before. We do like a United Way type golf thing here every year,
Yeah.
and I don't ever golf with anybody on this floor because nobody golfs. That's like my one time to play a year.
One time I golf's when I go to Top Golf.
Yeah, haven't been yet.
It's fun. Even if you don't golf, it's fun.
Tell him I beat him one game.
She did. She beat me.
And I don't golf either.
I had a few too many white Russians in me. We had our company party there. Our mid-year company party was it was in June, right? A couple
Yeah.
months ago. So we had a good time.
Aaron's probably a sleeper when it comes to golf, right?
If he tried harder, I think he'd be good at it.
We're on the top deck, but so far to the right that you really had to angle your body to get them to the holes.
See, I've got a wicked slice and I'm left-handed. If I hit it straight, it'd probably go exactly where it needed to go.
Yeah, you should go. It's fun.
I gotta find somebody to go with me.
I got a video of my
Oh, his
wife's first swing. Have you ever been there before at all with anybody?
Not to a Top Golf.
All right, let me see what I can find it.
I should get my wife to try golfing.
All right. Now, she is a dancer. She's not an athlete. She's a dancer. So this is it. Let me see if
Perfect.
she missed it. See a little hop.
Boom.
Yeah,
There you go.
she did good.
Good form.
Yeah, for the
Yes. We're gonna go back on the
the fact we don't golf, she did pretty good.
Yeah.
She actually enjoyed herself.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, we are back on the record. Did the applicant want to provide their rebuttal?
I'm going to try to answer the questions as they came through from the public, but I want to find the Master Concept Plan A first. The first issue that came up was traffic, and I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, the primary access to the property is going to be from North Cleveland Avenue, which is, an arterial roadway, and then onto the secondary roads, West Mariana and Judd Road. We are not planning any access on Manny Road at all. In fact, condition number 9 prohibits vehicular access onto Manny Road. So that should answer and clarify some of the questions about increased traffic on a residential street. As far as gas stations nearby, I didn't do the whole length of 41. I just looked at the 2 closest to the north and the south. I did find that there was a Chevron station with 4 fueling pumps, approximately 1,200 feet to the south, a Marathon station with 8 fuel pumps at the intersection of 41 and Pondella Road, approximately 1 mile to the south, and then a racetrack with 18 fuel pumps on Pine Island Road, approximately 3,000 feet to the northwest. But those were the nearest gas stations that I was locating in proximity to this subject property. The next question was, why did the applicant want to rezone from residential to commercial? Tract 1 was already almost entirely zoned for commercial use. There was just the 1 vacant lot that had a single-family home that has since been demolished. So he wanted to convert that all to commercial development. He also purchased the adjacent properties on the east side of Judd Road. He added this property here with the intention of preserving those trees and adding additional screening and buffering and detention. This allowed him to concentrate the development closer to Judd Road and West Mariana and still have a nice green open space area that will act as a transition between commercial and the residential uses to the east. This Tract 1 is in the mixed-use overlay. The future land use is intensive development that is intended to be a mix of high-intensity commercial and residential uses. So we believe that this is an appropriate location for a mix of uses, and we've done our best to provide compatibility with the adjacent residential lots through the provision of buffers, indigenous, and drainage.
And on this particular, the issue of compatibility, on this particular one, you said hours of operation would be something that you would be amenable to for the service center?
Yes, I will get to that one. Okay. Again, no access on Manny Road, which was condition number 9. We talked about the gas stations. I would like to propose a new condition for hours of operation for the for the service and repair center. And I did confer with staff on the proposed hours. We would like to propose limited service hours, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, and closed on Sunday. We believe that would be appropriate hours that would not negatively impact the residential property owners.
And with respect to the, again, while we're on this one,
Okay.
with respect to the wall, I understand the visual impact of having the wall and asking to not have to provide it for the entirety. Would the wall provide any buffering from noise and things that were coming from the site if it was provided around the preserved dry detention area?
For Master Concept Plan A, Scenario A, Tract 2, the service center is located in the center of this site with garage door bays on either end. This distance between the building and the property line is 130 linear feet. The wall is set back 25 feet and extends from the buffer all the way past the dumpster location, which is there, and terminates at the Indigenous Tree Preserve. So that's where the wall is located on Master Concept Plan A. We're just not proposing the wall here where the detention and Indigenous Preserve is located because there's no development there. we believe the wall here is providing a satisfactory screening and will reduce the noise associated with the repair center.
But would providing the wall for the entirety across those other residential lots, would that protect the neighbors from noise in any fashion?
With the additional trees that are provided and the required buffer, it's a type C, and I believe it was 30 trees and a double. Let me look back at my notes. I'm sorry. So many buffers on this one. A 20-foot wide type C buffer with 10 trees and 30 shrubs per 100 linear feet is proposed near the single-family lots on West Mariana and Manny Road, where we're not providing the wall. I do believe that the distance between the repair center and the additional vegetation would provide sufficient buffering from noise. Lighting. Lighting will be required to comply with the land development code to not provide excessive lighting or light trespass onto adjacent properties. And I believe it's limited to 25 feet in height. The light poles are limited in height. Obviously, if it is the gas station convenience store option, they would have the 24/7 lighting like most racetracks or Wawas have. But the sales and service center or the public warehouse would have the limited lighting required for a commercial business. Stormwater and flooding. I think we have talked about that both properties will be required to get permits either from FDOT or from South Florida Water Management District. In addition to development orders from Lee County, we would be required to provide sufficient stormwater for this property. And as you are probably aware, the requirements for containing stormwater on your property go up every year. That's why some of the lots are lower and some are higher, because you have to build up. In the last comment from Mr. Moody, at 1673 Manny Road, we did talk to him prior to the hearing starting. We were unaware of an existing access easement through the subject property from Manny Road to his garage and carport area. It did not come up on the title certification, and it was not located on the boundary survey. However, we do want to work with Mr. Moody because that has been his historic access point since he's lived there. Dean will work with him in environmental resources and stormwater management to probably relocate the berm south. Mr. Moody had said that the easement was 15 feet wide, so it would be relocated south, and we would make additional changes to make sure that we're still providing the minimum amount of stormwater required for this development.
Okay, so no changes would be necessary to the buffering that you're requiring. You wouldn't be seeking additional deviations. You would just relocate south 15 feet or whatever the differential ends up being.
That's the plan as of now. Of course, Dean will have to do the drainage calculations and the drainage plan at the time of the development order permitting process. So, but as of now, as of today, we do not plan on reducing or changing the buffers. And that, I believe, were the comments from the public, and I can answer any other questions.
Could you just go to the next master concept plan and clarify the location of the convenience store relative to where the residents are and what's intervening in between?
Okay, so the convenience store is here. In the northeast corner of Tract 1, it's limited to 5,000 square feet. Then you have a detention area, a 50-foot right-of-way for Judd Road buffer. This area is actually covered storage for RVs and boats. It's not completely enclosed, just covered storage. Then you have the wider drive aisle for trucks and the moving trucks. Then you have the storage facility itself. Again, you're going to have the buffer wall set back 25 feet from the property line. It will be 8 feet in height, the 25-foot wide buffer. Again, you will have the indigenous preserve area here and the drainage area here with the buffer, which is the hatching around there.
Okay, so the folks that would be accessing the fuel facility would not need to traverse all the way over to Manny Road
Correct.
to either enter or exit?
Right. They would be entering here on Judd Road or here on West Mariana.
Okay.
Unless they were coming from Walmart, then they may, I guess, come down this way on Manny Road and travel that way.
But that would be happening regardless of
Right.
this development?
That would be passed by traffic, right?
Okay. And the storage facility, again, would be gated? The gate locations are
Yes.
either right at the entrance? or-
Right there and right there.
Okay. So that would not be a heavily trafficked site?
Yes, ma'am.
It's closest
That is
to the-
correct. Mhm.
Thank you. Was that the extent of your rebuttal?
That is.
Did staff have anything further to say?
Yeah, just
Thank you.
as a courtesy to the public, I just wanted to explain just a couple more messages, just a little bit clearer. So it's been stated already that there's no access point proposed here. What that means from a high level is, generally speaking, it would be standard practice with Lee County Community Development if they were to redesign the plan where they would want an access point here for some reason or another, that would have to go through this process all over again. It would go through an amendment process, and we wouldn't be able to necessarily consider that administratively because of the external impacts on the residential neighborhood. So it is not proposed, and there is a hurdle to overcome to get to having that access point where they would have that input again. So just saying that's an important one. And then just to speak briefly on light, there are standards in the code that the phrase is spillage, light spillage, or light pollution, but really what it is a measure of how much you are impacted by the light being produced by a business or a residential area. And the standards that we have are measured at the property line of a specific use. It can only be, I think it's like a 1/2-foot candle, so something. I have no practical comparison, but you would basically be not impacted by any of the light. There are often times where commercial businesses, they get their development order, they get their commercial building permits with code required lighting that's appropriate, and they come in and switch it out with bigger, brighter lights, which do end up becoming an issue. That's not uncommon, and at that point that would necessarily be a code enforcement issue, and we would definitely recommend, if they feel like they're being negatively impacted by something like that, or they've sensed that something like that has happened, to seek out code enforcement on that situation. Those are really the two things I wanted to make sure that were clearly stated for the record.
And of the proposed uses, when lighting was brought up, what brought to mind was fueling stations, because that's typically where you see the really bright lights. But again, that is going to be limited to 41
Right.
and not directed towards
Correct.
residential areas.
And a gas station has the same standards as any other commercial business in terms of the impact that you have, from the property line or, driving by or in their neighborhood. And so if they feel like it's not being adequately been maintained, or they've switched out the lights for brighter lights, that's certainly something that code enforcement would be willing to look into.
And you were in agreement with the hours of operation that the applicant proposed?
Yes.
Some of my questions, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry we closed public comment, but you're free to speak to the staff or the applicant after we
Why
close
can't
it.
we say, but that wasn't, the
I
hours of operations weren't.
But as I said at the beginning, our county procedure is that there's one opportunity to speak, and so after that's closed, again, you're free to speak to the applicant and the staff following the hearing, but I'm not permitted to take additional testimony at this time from the public. But we will go ahead and close the hearing for today. As I said, I'll be issuing a recommendation in this case. If you filled out a form, you will receive a copy of that by email if you provided your email address, and notice of when the hearing will be before the Board of County Commissioners. So thank you for everyone coming today, and please do stay well. Thank you.